What is up, guys? This is Harv with Harv's Corner. Today, we're going to be talking about how to make a farm, how to grow crops, how to get the vegetables that you need, where to store them, how to get them, how to get the fertilizer, the crop plots, and all. We're going to talk about all of it. So behind me, to your left, would be the I have both of these set up, one for vanilla on the left and one for S plus on the right. So we're going to go over both of these. The vanilla obviously is pretty much going to apply to everyone. And the one on the right is obviously only going to apply to S plus modded servers. It isn't too terribly different. S plus really just adds a couple of things, and we're going to talk about that. Why would we need to do this? You can tame a creature that can harvest berries for you. You can use those berries for food. You can use it for making narcotics. You can use it for making other recipes. You can use them for taming other herbivores. But if you get more of the advanced crops like the rock carrot, the citronal, the long grass, those options, you can then start making those advanced crops allow you to tame herbivores better, opens up new recipes for you to make, also opens the door to making a lot of the kibbles. It's important. I think anybody playing Ark in general at some point in time, you're going to have some sort of farm. Might not be big, might just be small to give you what you need, but it's important to know how this stuff works. And we're going to go over it all right now. So, we're over here on the Ragnarok single player, just kind of hanging out over in the ruins off of one of the herbivore islands. But I figured we'd be left alone back here, and it'd be a good place to go. So there's a couple of tames that are going to make your life very easy for you, easier if you're planning on growing crops. Two of these guys, I have the trike here as a representation, but you need something that gathers berries, and you need something that gathers berries well. The reason why is you need certain seeds, and you'll pick them up in your travels. Your dino will pick those up. You'll see savorroot seed, rock carrot seed, citronal seed. There'll also be a long grass seed as well, but they pick up seeds, and I'm leaning a bit more heavy on the vegetables because that's probably what most people are trying to grow. But you'll pick up seeds for narco berries and stem berries, azul berries, all the other ones too. So you'll be able to plant all those seeds too. And the same method as far as growing crops, and we'll talk about that, applies to things like plant X seed, plant species Y, plant species Z, all of those that are on separate maps. They all grow the same way. You have to find the seeds. So you take your berry guy out, you get your seeds, and stow them. Just stow them away in your travels. When you're out there grabbing berries, just stow them to the side. Put them in a storage container somewhere. They don't expire, and you're going to have them. That way you got them when you need them. The other thing we're going to talk about is Biomia. One of the pretty much only reasons to have one of these things. No big secret, everything in this game poops. Poop. Everywhere. You poop, I poop. Every dino poops. They all poop. Poop everywhere. You need it. So, poop can be used as a fertilizer for crop plots. However, you can take that poop and create fertilizer out of it, which makes it even better and lasts even longer for your crops. This guy helps you get poop faster. I know it sounds crazy, but it's what this thing does. The Phiomia doesn't have a whole lot going for it, but what it does have is it's the only animal, well, with the exception of the roll rat on Aberration. The roll rat actually works the same way. If you open up the inventory of these animals, you can force feed them berries. And if you force feed him stem berries, he will kind of go on a pooping spree. You want to watch it because his food's gonna plummet down, so you don't want to starve him. But he will start to poop a lot. And you can in turn pick all that up, and I'm going to show you how to make it into fertilizer. So we're going to go over the normal way first. There's pretty much two ways to do this. There is another option, and we'll talk about that, but the primary two that you're going to use are either taming a dung beetle or using a compost bin, or maybe a combination of both. So with the compost bin, what you do is you put poop in there, any type of poop, doesn't matter, and you put thatch in there too. So put 2 stacks of thatch in there, fill the rest of it full of poop. So each 3 poop will eventually convert into 1 fertilizer, and you'll be able to pull that out. Compost bins, they work, but you got to make a lot of them. If you're trying to get a sustainable farm and you don't want to tame a dung beetle, this is going to take a while. You're going to need a lot of them. You're going to want a lot of them. So this is probably the simplest method that doesn't involve taming things, but it does make it it makes it monotonous, and it's going to take even longer than it probably should. The better option that I believe is taming a dung beetle. You'll find these on a lot of different maps in a lot of different places, in caves, in the deserts, but dung beetles are very useful. Now, when these guys are put on wander, and mine's already put on wander, you put them on wander and you put the poop into their inventory, and what they will do over time is turn that into fertilizer for you. and that's it. They just wander around and just do that on their own. So you just wander by, you put poop on them when you pick it up, and that's all you have to do. And as they level up, you just level up its weight stat, because that's all you're concerned about, is being able to carry more of it. And it'll generate fertilizer over time for you. The other nice thing about these little guys is they'll actually generate a small amount of oil while they're doing this in their inventory. So if you need oil early on, you just need enough to get by, this is a pretty good option. All right, so you got your fertilizer. What next? Well, we need to build something. We need to build the crop plots. And we'll talk about this whole structure in a minute, but we're going to talk about the crop plots first. So in the normal survival evolved, you have three different crop plots. You got large, medium, small. Now, if you notice my small one is empty, I'm going to show you why. Certain crops will only grow in certain crop plots. Your advanced crops, like your rock carrot, your citronal, your long grass, your saber root, are only going to grow in large crop plots or medium crop plots. They won't grow in the smaller ones. Pay attention when you're trying to figure out, if you're trying to build a greenhouse, how big to make it, how big the crop plots are. The large crop plot is about the size of a foundation. It takes up just as much space as a ceiling. So it's about, the length and width is that size. The medium is obviously roughly about a third, and the small is about a quarter the size of one of those. Anyway, you'll open these up and they'll all have slots. In this case, you have slots just like this, and it'll look pretty much identical. It'll be empty. So what you'll want to do is you'll put one of the seeds in there. I've already done it. In the teal, it says crop saber root seed. That means I threw a saber root seed in there, put the fertilizer in. The saber root seed disappears. It starts growing the crop, but it starts wearing through the fertilizer, and over time I'll have to grab more fertilizer and put it in. This is what that fertilizer looks like that you'll get from either the compost bin or from the dung beetle. Eventually, and going back, we'll also notice the status in here. The saber root seed is in a seedling state. It'll go from a seedling to a middling and then to fruiting. Once it gets to fruiting is when it actually starts creating a yield for you to pull out of it. Also notice the fertilizer. That fertilizer will slowly tick down and let you know. This is a very high number. We got a lot of fertilizer in here, so it would take a considerable amount of time for this to drain down, even with official settings. Water, every crop probably needs to have water in it. The water will slowly drain out if it's not irrigated. It's irrigated now, it'll sit at $5.99. It'll bounce between that and $600. It's pretty common for it to do that. Let's talk about irrigation. So the way you irrigate these guys, it's a couple different ways. One of the easiest ways is if you're on a map where it rains a lot, like Ragnarok, the island, or the center, you can actually put these crop plots just outside somewhere, and you don't really have to worry about watering it. Wait till the first rain hits it. Rain will fill this thing full of water, and before it can drain full of water, it will rain again on that map, I guarantee you. So you can get away with doing that on some of those maps, but you miss out on the greenhouse effect, and we'll talk about that too. Another way to irrigate these crop plots is to take something like, just pull one up here for us real quick, is a water skin. So what you can do is take the water skin and take it out here, fill it up. Did I take it out? Maybe I didn't. Maybe oh, you know what? I think I put it in the crop plot by accident. So let's get another one. So we got it in the water and we fill it up, and you see how it turns gray down there on my hot bar. At least it looks gray. That's what we're gonna call it, it's gray. You can take that and actually drop it in one of these guys, and it will slowly leak the water out into the crop plot. So that's another way to irrigate things as well. You can do it that way. The last way and the best way, the most consistent way, is to actually run irrigation pipes. Now, obviously I'm by the water, so that makes this very easy. But if you're not, it can be kind of a pain to do that. So it's definitely key as to where you're building, where your base location is. Water sources are always good to have, and this is another reason why they're good to have where you're at. Now there's options to that. You can make water reservoirs that will attach to these pipes that will slowly drain the water out, and you just have to keep refilling it up with, things like canteens or the rain or things like that. But all in all, this is the easiest way to do it. The best way to do it is to run irrigation pipes. And if you notice, the irrigation, like the taps, don't necessarily have to be right over the crop plot. They just need to be by it. And you can see in the water section there where it says that it's irrigated. Sometimes when you build these pipes and lay them, and immediately look down, these will say not irrigated. Give it a few seconds, it'll eventually tick over and say irrigated. If it still hasn't within about 15 to 20 seconds, then you need to make another tap closer to it, or you might need to move the crop plot. So we've got seeds in here growing. This has already changed to a middling status. The crops are growing. This building around it, and we're going to talk about the greenhouse effect. So tips, advantages to having larger crop plots. You can grow anything out of the large crop plot. The other option is, well, the other benefit is that clearly it has more slots. It's going to potentially yield more of whatever you planted as well. So small to medium to large, there will be a maximum of how many berries or vegetables or whatever it caps out at before it'll keep producing more. The small to medium to large will produce obviously higher cap, while the small will be a lower cap. So the trade-off is you save room versus not getting quite as many. This all depends on what you're trying to accomplish, and do you really need a lot? If you don't, go with the smaller medium ones. If you have plenty of room and want to do a crazy farm, go with the big ones. It's very simple. Also note that a lot of the specialty plants, plant X, plant Z, plant Y, have to be in a large crop plot. They won't grow in a medium. So if you're going for vegetables, you want to stick to the large medium. If you're just going for berries, you can even do the small one. But if you're doing the plant X, Y, or Z, you have to use the large crop plots. Greenhouse effect. So greenhouse effect is a percentage that's marked, and you can see it's the greenhouse 300. That's the maximum you're going to get. But get the greenhouse effect by building greenhouse buildings or structures around your crop plot. You don't necessarily have to do like the floor or anything, but the walls, ceiling, and you don't have to make a box like this. The greenhouse style has a bunch of different, I could do like a sloped roof. I could make it look more intricate, but the trick is you want to use a lot of this glass. Sometimes you look at the greenhouse and it'll only say like 125% instead of 300%. That's because there isn't enough greenhouse glass over top of that crop plot, around that crop plot, to get it up to 300. Getting a higher greenhouse effect means two things. It means one, your crops will grow considerably faster, and two, the maximum yield that crop plot will be able to hold will be even higher. So greenhouse effect, again, if you're trying to build a very effective farm, is definitely a must. Now, greenhouse in the standard art is risky. It's easily blown up. It takes a lot to make. So if you're on a PvE server, you still want to be careful about where you put this. If you're on a PvP server, this can get blown up very quickly. So you might not want to do the greenhouse. You might want to put it inside a metal building or tuck it away somewhere to keep it hidden versus putting all the effort into something that somebody's going to blow up. But on a PvE environment, you just want to pay attention to where you're building it, or wild dino is going to hit it. You know, you just want to pay attention. Also, I have a preserving bin here. So as this produces crops, and we can come back once that's in the fruiting stage, you'll be able to pull those crops out, but they do have a spoil timer on them. So you're going to want to have a refrigerator or a preserving bin to kind of stow those in, because it'll increase the spoil timer of those. Plus, by pulling the crops out, you're now allowing it to produce more for you. But yeah, that's about it over here. And obviously you can make this bigger, you can make it smaller, pretty much do what you want to do. You can do this on a boat. You can totally have a mobile greenhouse floating around on a boat if that's what you want to do. And yeah, crop plots. They can grow pretty much everywhere. They don't, as odd as it sounds, they don't need direct sunlight. You can build one of these in a cave somewhere. You just might not be able to get that greenhouse effect. You just might have to wait it out. But again, it's really comes down to what you're playing, how you're trying to design your base, and where you're trying to build at. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Key notes to take away: greenhouse if you want faster crops, dung beetle if you want faster fertilizer. Using large crop plots means you'll be able to grow anything inside those large crop plots. One last thing to note: only one type of crop can be growing in one crop plot at a time. You can't mix them all up. Even though there's multiple plants coming out of this thing, it'll only take one at a time. But yeah, that's crop plots in a nutshell. How to farm it, how to get them, how it works. But because S Plus is such a very, very popular mod, we're going to talk about the S Plus side of things too, which isn't too terribly different, with the exception of some automated things that make things a little bit easier for you. But we're going to talk about that. So without further ado, here we are. It looks a little bit different, right? So we're going to start all the way in the back. Now, if we notice, there's a large, there's a medium, and there's a small. Now, these look really square up on the foundations, and the reason why is because they snap to them. So the large foundation snaps right over top. The small, snaps right into the corner, and the medium slaps itself right in the middle. So it looks a bit neater. Looks a little bit neater. I got a dung beetle over here wandering around, just like what you would see. And this one has actually produced a couple of fertilizer and 2 oil along the way too. There's 2 other crop plots, and that's these 2. Now these are called seamless. Obviously it doesn't look seamless. It looks like it's got a big border around it. But you can actually access these guys and select model and change which sides show. which is really just aesthetics. If you want to connect a bunch and make it look like one big farm, you can do that by taking the sides off. The triangle does the same thing. That works the same way. And as far as what you can grow in these guys, so this will take anything that the medium crop plots will. This will take anything that the large crop plots will. That part of things that's pretty much the S plus as far as what additional structures, how the structures part of things might work. And you still have the preserving bin and the compost bin. The difference to the compost bin here is it definitely has more slots and actually has a little timer to let you know how close it's going to get to craft something else for you. This isn't too bad because you can kind of make a bunch of these, and with S plus they snap together, and it has a bigger inventory. So making a bunch of these and filling them all up with like the Phiomia, like I showed you a few minutes ago, this isn't nearly as bad because you can kind of do this and walk away. You don't have to maintain it quite as much as you have to the regular one. Preserving bin, same thing. You just hold it in there in case you need to hold crops. Interesting things that S plus have are the gardener and the farmer. These two automated guys man and woman. They normally require specific things to run. The gardener requires beard to run, and the farmer usually requires Cali and soup to run. They also can run off of a tech generator, and I just slapped the tech generator on the other side of that wall over there so that you guys could it'd just be easier for me to start up and see. But what you can do is activate them, and they'll start moving just a tiny bit, like breathing, so you can kind of tell they're working. Your gardener, what she will do is she's empty right now, but as crops grow in those crop plots, she will automatically pull them out into her inventory, and she exponentially increases the spoil timer on them. So she'll pull all the crops out, and she kind of works like a refrigerator to hold them in. Now, once you pull the crops out of her inventory, you can't put them back in, so pay attention to that. But it makes the crop plots even more automated because you don't have to worry about pulling the crops out so that they don't max out and don't produce anymore. She'll always be pulling them out, which means they'll always be producing more for you. The farmer takes fertilizer, and it'll take fertilizer out of the dung beetle, it'll take fertilizer out of the compost bin automatically, and automatically distribute them to the crop plots to make sure the crop plots have fertilizer. Both of these people have a range, and it's a considerably big range. Come out here and take a look. Big, I mean, yeah, I don't know how big you're planning on your farm being, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to be that big. But anyway, these two tools make the farming very autonomous and very hands-off. You don't have to do a whole lot of things. Really, you just got to make sure your dung beetle's producing fertilizer or your compost bin's making fertilizer. These two are running, and that's pretty much it. As long as they're running, you just walk away from them. But yeah, that's crop plots, and that's crop plots and S plus. Pretty much the same way. S plus has its own greenhouse stuff. It pretty much works the same way. Does the same thing. Provides a greenhouse effect to your stuff. Pretty straightforward. And again, you don't have to make a box like this. Greenhouse, you have sloped walls with greenhouse. You have ceilings with greenhouse. You can make something intricate. You can make an octagon or a tower or more of an A-frame ceiling, whatever you want to do. You don't have to just make a box like this. I just did it just because it was easy and quick. I think we're still in the middling status over here. Yeah. Farming. That about sums it up, though. Farming in Ark can seem daunting at first, because I'm sure if you're not familiar with how the farming works, you've had a berry gatherer out there, or you've been picking up seeds on your own, and been wondering what the heck are these for, and that's pretty much what they're for. This trike is boosted. This trike's a little insane, but if you notice while he's harvesting, you'll start to grab certain seeds on their own. Long grass, citronal, and this is really random when you're going to find these seeds and when you aren't. So that's why I say in your travels, before you get to this point, if you find the seeds, just hold on to them because they're going to be a lot easier for you. There is a couple different side things that we did want to note as well. The toilet that you can build in either normal or the S plus version. You can make a toilet, you have to irrigate to it. It requires a lot more resources than you would think to make, but once you do make it, you can sit on it and poop on it, and it turns your poop into fertilizer. There's that option. The other option is you don't actually have to technically make fertilizer. You could just throw the poop inside of there. It just won't last nearly as long. So in a pinch, sure, but I would do the preparation to actually have fertilizer, and it's going to make your life a lot easier later on. The other thing to remember as far as seeds go is the iguanodon tame in this game that can convert things into seeds. So if for whatever reason you're having a hard time finding certain seeds, but you're having a good time finding those berries, you can convert them into seeds using the iguanodon special ability. That's about it. I mean, that's how the farming will work for you. And again, this is a very simplistic breakdown. Kind of want to keep things as simple as I can for the 101. Obviously, we can go a little crazy with just about anything ARC related, but trying to keep it simple. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it useful. Please throw me a like, throw me a subscribe. Let me know how I'm doing. If there's something that you're butting your head with on ARC or having some problems with, feel free to shoot something in the comments, and I'll look at taking a video for that as well. But that's all, guys. Thanks for hanging out, and until next time.